Welcome to Homeschooling Down South. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kat. We're two Southern homeschooling mamas sharing real talk, resources, and inspiration for life and learning in the Southeast.
Each week, we'll chat with inspiring voices in the homeschool community, highlight must-see nature spots and field trip gems, and share resources from across the region.
Whether you're new to homeschooling or a seasoned pro, pull up a chair and join us as we celebrate the joy, freedom, and community of homeschooling down south.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We're so excited today to have our first of
Influencer.
the movers and shakers here in the Southeast. We're welcoming Tam. Hi, Tam.
Yeah, listen, I'm still getting used to that word because I don't see myself that way, but I accept it. My son officially was the one who was like, no, you're an influencer. I was like, oh,
You are.
no. Okay.
And I feel like that
I
term can
accept it.
have a negative connotation, but when you look at it just at its definition, I mean, you are influencing the homeschool community. And Tam is local. She's right here in the Southeast in Georgia as well. And I actually met her in South Carolina. Well, I met her virtually first. I met her on TikTok.
Yes.
And then I met her in South Carolina at a homeschool conference. And I knew that she would be perfect for the podcast because she is out there doing big things.
I appreciate you thinking of me and inviting me. I feel like we had a blast at the conference out there in South Carolina, even though I did feel a little bit picked on for being the old one in the group. I was definitely feeling like I was being ganged up on by you young folk.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
No, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was so fun getting to meet you guys in person because, I see your stuff online and you feel like you know them, and it's like, oh no, this person exists in the real world too.
That's exactly right. Like you feel, especially on TikTok, because it's one of those platforms where I don't want to downplay other ones, but it's like you can be more genuine on
Sure.
TikTok. You can be in your robe and making your coffee and just saying what you want to say. And I do love it that when we all met in person, it didn't feel pretentious at all. It was just like, oh
Right.
yeah, this is like continuation.
Right.
What you see on screen is what you see off screen. And
Yeah,
I loved that weekend so much. I still think about it.
I know. Okay, so talk about how you got started on social media because I don't even know that I know that. Like, did you start on Instagram? Did you start on TikTok? And how Homeschool Help Desk came to be?
So I started on Instagram, as most people do. I had a different username back then. And all I was doing was basically just using Instagram as our homeschool yearbook. I would take pictures of what we were doing that day, that lesson plan, that field trip, whatever. And it was really just a way for me to keep track of what we were doing because sometimes I would forget and I would want to look back and say, what did we do in February? I just
Yeah.
just to go back and scroll through. And TikTok came about when pandemic, like most people, and you just start seeing like all these people are dancing on the app. What are they doing over there? That seems like fun, seems like a party. And so I got on thinking, okay, well, I'll start sharing about what I do, which is read. I'm a huge fan of books, reading. And so that's what I started doing, was just sharing books that I was reading. And Homeschool Help Desk was a shower idea, as most good ideas sometimes are. And I'm in the
It's the only
shower.
quiet place.
Right. Like you're in the shower, you're thinking, and you go, you know what I think would be funny? And of course, you are your most hilarious and most talented in the shower. Like you sing the best, all your jokes are landing. And so in the shower, I'm thinking, I would love to do like a customer service approach to homeschooling because I was working customer service at the time. As my home, work from home job. And I just thought I would love to put like a homeschool spin on this because as y'all know, I'm sure we get a lot of the same questions, which is exactly what happens in customer service. You get a lot of the same questions. And so I put a little spin on, I think my first one was like what you need as a curriculum or what's the most important thing you need for as a homeschooler. And the answer was coffee,
Right.
of course. And so that was one of the first things I did as a little skit where I'm pretending to be that customer service person. And it took off. And I was like, oh, they like me. They really like me. Sally Fields. So it just continued on after that. And people would say, we want more of this, we need more of this. And in between those, in the comments, I would get real questions that I would then answer in a more like serious way, like seriously answering questions of people who genuinely wanted to know about getting started with homeschooling, which then led to me doing the lives where I was
Right.
answering the questions and looking things up online. And I think that's what people remember me more for the most now, is because I actually don't do the skits very often anymore, but I still will go live and answer questions because I, podcasts are great. Talking to people in person is great, but I don't know. There's something that there's a middle ground there where you want to talk to someone live, but
Right.
you want the anonymity of online because, people think they don't want to be embarrassed. They think it's a stupid question to ask things. And I think going live on social media does help answer those questions in real time for people. So that's how all that got started. I know, long answer, my bad, but yeah.
No, that
No,
was
I
that was
love
that was great.
yeah.
And I think that when I've gone back and watched some of those skits, like they're so relatable. I was watching the one about the new mom in the homeschool group, and everyone's just saying there's so many resources. There's just so
Yes.
many resources. And I laughed so hard because I feel like I just had a conversation yesterday where I was saying, like, it's just so great because there's so many resources. And I heard myself through that lens after watching your skit of like, oh, that's not actually that helpful.
It's not, but see, the thing about that skit is that it's homeschoolers are gatekeepers at our core. Like, we do not believe any and everything and any and everybody is worthy of the same access, whether we want to admit it or not. And that's a lot of times why we choose to homeschool, because we're like, we don't want all that filtering in. We don't agree with this. We don't agree with that. And the same is true when people are asking us, what are we using? Because we're like, okay, how much do I want to tell you?
I'm not going to give
Let
it
me
all away.
are you ready for this level of weird? Let me see. Let me gauge where you are. So that's why we start with, there's a lot of resources out there. And usually you start by telling people the free stuff, PBS,
Right.
IXL, education.com, harmless things, right? Or just, check your state website, check your, blah, blah, blah.
Go
But
visit
when you really are
HSLDA.
vibing, right. I never say that one, but yes. Well, no, I used to say it. Let me stop. I used to say it. But then once you are really connecting with someone, you're like, girl, have you seen this or that activity? Like this exact place, this exact time, this exact date. Like that's when a homeschooler likes you, is they're giving you like names, day, like who, what, where, when, why. They're giving you all the details. They don't like you that much. They're just going to send you to a website. So that's how you know.
It's hysterical. You know you've made it to the inner circle when you get the, like,
When you get
specific
the,
That's exactly right. Like if someone's telling you like times, places, dates, locations, like they like you. You
well,
Yeah.
because your
welcome.
homeschool is personal. It
It very
becomes
much
so
is.
personal. And so if someone's telling you those things, they're sharing like a piece of their home with you.
Yeah. That was a great kinda segue into talking about, your homeschool is personal. Can you share a little bit about, like, are we on your inner circle right now? Can
Yeah.
you share a little
Are you
bit
willing to
about
share with us?
Yes, of
your
course.
homeschool journey, like, how you became a homeschooler and kinda what your homeschool looks like right now?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how I became a homeschooler was I worked in college admissions. And I share that a little bit on my page, but I don't share it a lot because it's almost like when you admit to being in the medical profession and people want you to diagnose them on the spot. They're like, can you look at this mole? So I don't often share the college thing because then people are like, can you get my kid into college? I'm like, absolutely not. But that's how I got introduced to homeschoolers in real life, because before that, all I knew was the Duggars and what I read in the news, which is always terrible, or it's always impractical, like a
Right.
12-year-old got into Harvard. So when I was working in admissions and, seeing these kids come through the admissions process, I was like, oh my gosh, why would anybody not do it this way? Because, these kids were coming in with fully laid out portfolios of what they had been doing, internships, they've been traveling abroad because they had the freedom to do so.
Mhm.
They had nonprofits that they had started, and just all these different experiences that just really can't happen during the typical 7 to 3, Monday through Friday, 9 months out of the year schedule. And that's what made me say, okay, there's more out here than just what I experienced, which was public school. When it actually came down to our daughters at the time, we were moving and we didn't know exactly where we were going to be. So I just said to my husband, listen, I think I'm smarter than a kindergartner. Let's just homeschool this 1 year
That's how it always
until
starts.
we figure out. Right. It is a gateway. It's like
Mhm.
saying you're gonna do it
Just
one
1
year.
year.
We'll just do this 1 year, see where we are going to move, like get settled. Because the last thing we want to do on top of moving is withdrawing in and out of schools. So I said, we'll do this just 1 year and then we'll see where we land after that. Well, fast forward, we finish her kindergarten year. My second daughter, my middle child was only 3 at the time, so not starting school. And at the end of my oldest first kindergarten year, we reached out to my sister-in-law who was also an educator, and we said, hey, so what should she be knowing for a first grader? What are first graders doing? Because that's the grade level she was teaching. And she was like, oh, they should know letter recognition. They should know their name. She just went down in this basic list. And I was like, oh, well, our daughter knows all that and she's actually reading. And I remember her saying, oh, if she's reading, she's going to be very, ahead. She might actually be bored. And I thought to myself, well, I know what happens to bored kids in school.
Mhm.
They become the distraction because they're bored, or they kind of regress because they're bored. And I just didn't want that to happen. So I said to my husband, okay, let's try this one more year. And by the time our second child is ready for school, we'll know what we want to do and where we want to be at this point. And I just, kept moving the goalposts 1 year. And then I said, okay, fine. Middle school, we're definitely putting them in. And that's when the pandemic happened. And I was like, well, clearly we shouldn't try to do anything then.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was out of my hands. My kids were loving the lifestyle. They were choosing the homeschool. And we had my son by that point too. And it was just like, that's all she wrote. We're in this now.
So you started with just 1 year. Now, how many
hmm
years have you been homeschooling since you said that?
Yeah, this is going to be 11 this year.
Wow.
11 1 years.
Yes.
I love that story though, just because it's you were being responsive. You were just being responsive year by year, right?
Yeah.
It's not the right thing to put
Yeah.
them into school this year. We don't know where we're going to be. She's excelling. Why would we stop doing but just year by year until you realize this is working and this is
Yeah.
us. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I definitely was not called, quote unquote. I would say I wasn't called to homeschool. I was just curious. I was just on the
Yeah.
fringes. And it was one of those things where like you see a recipe on TikTok and you're like, I think I'll try that. And then all of a sudden you're baking bread and you're just like, whoa, when did that happen?
So what grades are your kids currently in, or what ages, I guess?
So grades are 10th, 8th, 4th, and ages are 15, 13, 9.
So you got some serious homeschooling experience under your belt.
Yes.
Yeah, one in each, one in elementary, one in middle, and
Yeah.
one in high school. And when I tell you I was terrified of high school, I definitely was. And I think a lot of people are. But when I tell you high school is by far the easiest, not even joking, like give me all the high school years.
Because I feel like they're so independent at that point where they can really have autonomy over their learning.
That part. And also, there's a plan, like there's a guideline that I follow. Again, referencing back to the admissions years, you know what courses are required for high school graduation, you know what classes are required for college admissions. And so all you have to do is say, let's find an algebra 1, let's find a, ninth grade lit, a 10th grade lit, like boom. And the amount of inexpensive high school curriculum resources that are out there, it just honestly, it blew my mind. I really thought we were going to have to pay private school prices to
Yeah.
achieve the high school goal. And that's just not the case, especially here in Georgia.
So one of the things I was telling Kat about you beforehand was I feel like you are incredibly knowledgeable about the requirements. And I mean, if I have a question about, Georgia requirements or standards or whatever, I'm going to your page first, or I'm texting you because I feel like you're so knowledgeable. Do you feel like you got that way because of your job, or just because of what you do on social media?
Both. I mean, I've always been a super curious person. Like, I would rather know the rules so I know how to bend them or break them if necessary. So, like, before I play a board game, I'm going to read the rules of the game, and then we can play house rules as we want to. But first and foremost, I'm going to know the rules.
I love that.
I learned a lot in admissions, but admissions doesn't tell you the homeschool laws. They just tell you the process of getting into that particular university. What I ended up doing was I went to HSLDA, as a lot of people do, but then at the bottom, I saw something to the effect of that it hadn't been updated in like 2 or 3 years. Because it's a blog like anything else. Like someone else is pulling resources and then sticking them on there, and they may not touch that page for 2 years. So I was like, okay, well, let me go to the Department of Education for Georgia to see if anything has changed. And sure enough, there were things represented on the Department of Education website that hadn't quite made it to HSLDA at that point that I saw it. They were a little bit, lagging on putting up the Dexter Mosley Act. If you're in Georgia,
Mm.
Sure.
that's the act that lets kids do extracurricular and sports. So when I saw that they hadn't matched up yet, I was like, oh, well, I need to put HSLDA on the back burner because sometimes they're a little lagging. Let me just go directly to the source all the time. So when I was on the Department of Education's website, even that little blurb is an abridged version of the state law. So that's what made me say, well, what does the state law say? And so that's what made me go to, subsection, code, line, print it, laminate it, post it, because I always felt like, I don't know, the GBI was just going to come up in here and be like, let us see your
Right.
license and registration. So I had it posted like a business license in our home for like, I'm not even joking, like 8 years
That's
Wow.
amazing.
with our like declaration of intent with the laminated homeschool law like right behind it. Because if anybody was gonna run up on me, they were gonna get like full information. Like, here you go.
That's
Like, please
amazing.
look at it because nobody else is. And so that's what kind of put me down the rabbit hole of like, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what the law says specifically, what I actually have to do. Then I can play around and do like the adding the fluff type stuff. So that's what got me into the research. And then you just keep learning more things. And then with doing the lives on TikTok, people would tell me more things too, because I don't know everything. I'm feel pretty confident about Georgia, but don't ask me about Mississippi. I don't know. But I would look it up
Right.
for people who had the question. I would look it up like right there and then on the website and say, oh, this is what Mississippi says. This is what Wisconsin says. And so that's how I just kind of learned it alongside the moms who are wanting to know. Similar to homeschooling, we're learning alongside our kids sometimes because
Yes.
sometimes I don't know what they're supposed to know, or I forgot
Yeah.
and I'm just relearning it.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And I had no idea about that with HSLDA. So that's really good to know that like I really need to be focusing on the Department of Education site.
Well, because
Hmm.
they might update the laws here in Georgia, and then it just takes time for someone at that national level to realize that
Hmm.
change. I really like that perspective too of like, I'm gonna know the rules so I can know where's my wiggle room, how am I
Yeah.
gonna follow, or, break but know I'm breaking and be
Yep.
thoughtful about how I'm breaking that. And you've made resources for people about how to follow the requirements. Can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the resources that you have?
Yeah. So I, again, because of the lives, people would ask me how I do my record keeping. And I am an Excel girl at heart. That is the way to my heart is a plan. And so people would ask, how are you keeping track of these things? How do you do your transcripts? How do you do your progress reports? And I just would share what I was doing, on the screen. And then someone said, can we get this? Can I like buy this from you? I would buy this from you. And I posted it for people to purchase on Etsy and Teachers Pay Teachers, and it's still every month making that's my brunch money is what I call it.
I love it.
So I can definitely go out to brunch on these spreadsheets.
That's
Those
amazing.
And they're great. I'm not there yet. My son's 5, but I thought I should buy this today and then just like put it in a folder for when I get to this point where I need to be tracking the actual requirements. Cause like you said,
Mhm.
and I'm excited now to know that high school feels easier because it's so clear
My
what
gosh, so much easier.
because when you're trying to teach reading or basic math, it's a little overwhelming to just
Mhm.
wade into that. But in high school, it's very clear this is what they need. This is what you're expected to do. And I like your admissions
Yes.
perspective. So, fun fact, I used to work in college admissions as well. And
Awesome.
yeah, so it I do remember looking at homeschoolers' transcripts and thinking, this is so interesting because you just
Mhm.
sort of get in a rut looking at the same transcript over and over and over again. And then you look at a
Mhm.
homeschooler's transcript and it was so much more personalized and it
And that's
really
that's one thing
intriguing.
I do love about the high school experience is that at this point your kid has goals and you can really orient a lot of what they're learning towards achieving those goals. It's the light in their eyes shines a little brighter because it's like they're not bored with school. It's not just like, huh, let me just go do this stupid thing because someone's telling me to. Everything that we do is oriented towards what they say they want to do.
It's
And I
purposeful. I
love
love
that.
that. That's really cool. So what is your homeschooling rhythm like these days? Your days or your week, however you think about your homeschool rhythm.
So we are what I like to call mullet homeschoolers. We are business in the front, party in the back, because one thing we are going to do is meet the requirements for the state.
Right.
So if you were to look at my schedule, you're going to see that we have more than 180 days covered. Our schedule is laid out that we have the 4.5 hours a day on there, 2 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours in the afternoon. You're going to see that the 5 subjects required for Georgia are all covered. And those are the ones that we're using the current curriculums for. So, like, we're using Monarch from AOP, we're using the Academy for my middle daughter, and my oldest does Time for Learning, which covers those 5 requirements for Georgia. So, when you come into looking at our record keeping, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, she's so organized, blah, blah, blah. She's got all these things because business is in the front. But then in the afternoons, once they've done their requirements, you're going to notice like, oh, they're just doing whatever the heck they want. Like she looks borderline unschooling up in here. Like there is no logic, no thought, because one of the things I love to do after we've handled our business is I just love to go full frizzle and say, what do you want to learn? Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Sky's the limit. Nothing's too silly. Nothing is weird. What do you want to do? And so my kids love animating. They love Dungeons and Dragons. They're in a drama camp this week. My son is a huge gamer, and I love to adapt things that we've learned to the games that he's playing. I personally have a huge passion for financial literacy, and so I love getting them investing. Nothing makes me happier than when they want to buy a stock. Like when they want to buy a share of a company or read a book. I'm like, oh my gosh, heaven.
I love it.
And so that's our kind of like random, no curriculum, nothing organized. Like if someone were to say, how do you teach financial literacy? I'm like, girl, the other day I was driving down the road 85 with my son, and I said, I want you to notice the names on the trucking companies that you see the most, and let's buy that stock. And that's what we did. And he ended up buying some shares of Penske. So I was like, yes, absolutely, because that's what we were seeing the most on 85. Now, I can't put that in a curriculum, but that's how I teach my son,
Yeah.
because if you see this company on the road a lot, they must be doing all right.
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 Or like we've got a couple Krogers popping up in our area. So my oldest daughter wanted to buy some Kroger. My middle daughter loves Coca-Cola, and so she bought some Coca-Cola stock. So it's
Listen,
just like,
Coca-Cola stock paid for my room and board my first year of college, so I fully support that.
so I'm just, but that's one of the ways that I teach them, about investing is like, look around you. What do you see? Who do you see prospering? Because if a child can see that this company is doing all right, then maybe there's
Yeah.
someone to buy a stock in. You can benefit in more than one way.
This is the beauty of homeschooling right here,
Mhm.
right? That is such a practical life skill and also just a skill of being aware and observant. Like,
Mhm.
and you just get to do that because it's right for you and your family. And also, mullet homeschooling is now officially
The
my
best.
favorite new category. Like, what are the categories of homeschooling? Charlotte Mason, Waldorf, and
Yeah.
mullet.
Yes, yes. That's
I
I
love
literally
it.
though. That's what I tell people all the time. Like, when they're like, "What's your style?" A mullet, business in the front, party in the
Yes.
back.
I
I
love
love
it.
that so much.
And how great, because you are meeting the requirements, but you're still gaining all of that, like, beauty and richness. Because I feel like sometimes people think about homeschooling and they're like, "Well, I either have to buy the curriculum and do everything like this, or I have to go, like, full unschooling and,
Mhm.
like and there's no in between." But there is. You can be balanced. You can
Yes,
have a mullet. Rock it. S
exactly. People need
So
to embrace the mullet.
Embrace it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thinking about the mullet and the craziness of that homeschool can be, how many times have you changed curriculums? Like, I know you've
It
got
changed seasonally.
right.
My favorite analogy, and I'm sorry, and I just love analogies, is that curriculum is like clothing. And just like as a parent, if your kid gets holes in their pants, sure, you can patch them if you want. But most of the time, we accept that our little boys are going to go through the knees of their jeans before the end of the year. They're going to get taller, whatever. And so nobody bats an eye when it's time to buy new clothes every season. And I think of curriculum in the very same way. Like, I am not married to these curriculums, I am
Yeah.
married to one man. And I am not going to feel bad that I spent $30 on a couple of workbooks that in March were great, but by August we're sick of.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on. It is what it is. It's an expense of childhood, no different than clothes, shoes, underwear, all the things. So I will change it up often. Like if you go back and look at the things that I've posted over the past couple years, like I don't think I'm using anything that I was using 3 years ago, except
Yeah.
like I'm not even using the same room in my house. It's like everything is up for change.
I
I love
love
that
that
so
though.
much. And I was thinking, this is what's so fun about doing this podcast is we're getting to talk to all these different homeschool moms and who have vastly different homeschool approaches. And I think one of the daunting things when you're new to it is like, okay, well, who do I copy? And the answer is no
Hmm.
one. You have to find what works for your family. You know that these options are out there because you see these people using them, but you have to find your own personal flow.
Yeah, but I can tell you as a public school kid, that's terrifying because, being an individual is what got you bullied, got you
Yep.
ridiculed. You had to follow the the prescribed outline or else you failed. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of people who come into homeschooling, we are recovering public schoolers who are absolutely terrified of individuality unless we've had some life circumstances that might have, helped us through that prior to choosing homeschooling. But for the most part, like we're fine being an individual as an adult, but these are my kids we're talking about here. I'm not trying to experiment on them and
Right.
potentially mess this up. So it's terrifying to say, do what you want. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I would like to follow a flow here. Like,
Yeah.
especially to a type A person like me, I don't go with the flow.
I need a
I need to
blueprint. Thank you
know.
very much.
I need a exactly. And so I will tell you, I was copying private school, like not private schools, boarding schools. That's who I was emulating at the beginning. I don't recommend that. It's a bit intense. There might be some tears, but that's what I was doing at the beginning. I was like, oh, well, if you're going to, because this is back before homeschooling was cool, back before before 2020. So, when I was starting, I was like, well, what's something people can't possibly ridicule? I was like, British boarding schools. That's what I'll copy.
That's where you
I
went.
like it. It was very thoughtful.
Oh my gosh, we have a crest and everything. I was quite intense, but my mom was on board. She was like, "Yeah, we can get those monogrammed because it's the South.
Yes.
I
Get
love
those put
it.
on some blazers." And she was full on board when I was saying I was going to do school uniforms, which I did do. Again, don't.
Stop. That's
Don't do
amazing.
that. But I still remember my girls had like navy blue and gray dresses from Old Navy as their school uniform.
And I love it because it is boarding school. They do live there. They do eat there. They do sleep there.
My
School
thoughts
is
exactly.
boarding school.
You are exactly with me. Yes. Just because I'm the headmistress of said boarding school, details, whatever. Like we
Right.
are our own little boarding school. You can't apply, you have to be born into it, but we
Yes.
are a boarding school.
It's very, very elite. Only a select few make it. That's
Yeah, that was
amazing.
my blueprint for sure. Again, do
How
not
long did that
recommend.
last?
Longer than it should have, like a solid year and a half, a solid year and a half at least. It wasn't until my poor baby was crying over subtraction that I was like, maybe we should try something else.
I love that you went from boarding school to mullet. Like
Yes.
that's the trajectory. That's the arc of this story is from boarding school to mullet. But what's cool for people who are listening is that it's yours. You get to change it. You're not stuck there. You're not 11
Exactly.
years later still in the boarding school model because you realized it wasn't working. And so you change
I will
it.
say the crest will still be on their diplomas though. Like
I
Oh, of
love
that's
that.
course.
staying.
Yes,
Of course.
absolutely.
It would be a
So
waste if it wasn't.
official. And then somebody in college admissions is gonna see that crest and be moved by it. It's a
I
full
know, right?
circle
Because
moment. Full
let's be honest,
circle.
college admissions is just a bunch of young 20 somethings that just graduated from that school and we
Mhm.
were just not ready to leave.
Accurate.
I wanted to
Oh
ask
gosh.
you because you mentioned that at the beginning you were moving and that was kind of
Uh-huh.
like how it started. Have you always been in Georgia or did you start homeschooling elsewhere?
Always in Georgia as a homeschooler, but I did
Okay.
move around a lot as a kid. And I remember just the annoyance as a kid of withdrawing in and out of schools.
Yeah.
So that's what really moved me to say, let's not do that to them.
Yeah.
But for Georgia, I mean, for homeschooling, we've always been in Georgia.
Do you feel like in your what you've done with TikTok and everything like that, do you feel like there is an advantage to homeschooling in Georgia over because I feel like Georgia's a super friendly homeschool state, but I also haven't done the research that you have into other states.
So, what I love about Georgia is that it provides structure without it feeling suffocating. So, do you have to register? Yes, it's like vehicle registration. So, it's a, one piece of paper, fill it out once a year and, you feel super official. However, they're not demanding portfolios that you have to submit to a certified teacher like some other states, which can be a bit anxiety inducing, as I've witnessed from other people. So, while they say prepare a portfolio, like, keep your records, but they're like, but you hold on to that.
Right.
So it's like, we want you to do this, but we're not going to add an extra layer to our teachers or to our homeschoolers by saying, y'all need to meet up once a year. I also appreciate that they want us to do the testing, but it's not every year, it's every 3 years.
Mm.
So I like the balance that Georgia has struck between regulation and freedom, because as with anything in life as an adult, like you want to be able to do your own thing and you should be able to do your own thing. However, you don't need to be out here all willy nilly with our future citizens. Like Georgia is like, listen, our future citizens, we want to make sure that they've done this, and this so that y'all can be successful. And oh, by the way, we're also going to give you a platform, a website that you can go to look for guidance. Again, you don't have to follow this to the letter, but in case you're lost, in case you don't know quite what a third grader needs to know for science, we're going to post all of the resources online. We're not going to put it behind a paywall. And we're going to say, here you go, have at it, Georgians, to use as like a guideline. So I appreciate the way Georgia approaches homeschooling. And if anyone from the Georgia legislature is listening, please don't change it. Like, we're good here. Please don't
We
change
like
it.
it. It's
We
working.
like it here.
We've got 11 years of proof that it's working.
It's doing fine. We're doing good.
So, in addition to, so just for our listeners to like orient themselves, because we're in Northwest Georgia, Kayla and I, and we've talked about being here, but you are not in, you're in Georgia, but not in Northwest Georgia. So tell our listeners about where you are. I mean, you don't have to like get
I'm in
specific.
Northeast Georgia.
Northeast
So
Georgia.
yeah, I'm Northeast Georgia.
And what do you love about the area that you are in as a homeschooler?
What I love about where I am is I'm an hour from everything awesome. So I feel like "Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?" in that part where he's like, "We're a geological oddity, 2 weeks from everywhere." That's how I feel about where I am. I'm an hour from everything awesome, or within an hour. So I can get to the mountains in about an hour. I can get to Atlanta in about an hour. I can get to some great universities in about an hour, and my kids get to experience all those cool things. The only thing we're not an hour from is the beach, but that's fine. I don't like sand that much anyway. But we can still get to some cool lakes, we can fish, we have lots of state parks within about an hour. So it's like where I am, it's not too far from anything that's fun and exciting. And because of that, my kids have been able to have some really, really cool, unique experiences. Like my middle daughter is a Girl Scout, and we went to Wesleyan for her to participate in a teen leadership conference. So, and it was an
That's
overnight
awesome.
thing. So they got to sleep at the
Nice.
university, and it's an all girls university, and just get those experiences in leadership and thinking about what you want to do with your future. That same daughter is also interested in archery. And so we're joining an archery club. She's been doing that for a little while. My son does sports. We just wrapped up soccer, and we have like a little bit of time off, and then he's about to start football again. I mentioned earlier that most of my older girls are both in a drama camp right now, and all these things are just not too far. So that's what I love about where we are. And also, it's super homeschool friendly. Like nobody looks at us sideways at the store when they see us out. They're just like, I wish I could do that, which is a far cry from like 6 years ago when people were like, why aren't they in school? Like, are they sick today? So I do love that that's been changing in our area as well.
That's very cool.
Is your son doing the sports through Dexter Mosley or through like a rec league?
So he's too young for Dexter Mosley now because he's
Okay.
fourth grade. Dexter Mosley starts
Okay.
sixth grade and up.
Okay.
So what we do now is we've done sports through the Y. We've also done rec sports that are in conjunction with our county schools though. So like
Oh,
they play under the high school name that they be going to, but it's not technically affiliated through Dexter Mosley because he's young.
okay.
Now, as he gets older, if he still wants to, then it would be through Dexter Mosley, which I think a lot of people don't realize is that that is on most counties' websites right now. Is if you are sixth grade and up and you want your kid to play sports, just Google like your county name and Dexter Mosley if you're in Georgia. And they already probably have a form for you to fill out because it's just that common
Yeah.
now here in Georgia.
So let's, for anyone who's listening, maybe outside of Georgia or just isn't familiar with it, let's explain a little bit more about Dexter Mosley. Tam, would you mind telling us a little bit of what Dexter Mosley, what that act did or
Yeah.
is, and how it works here?
Yeah, of course. So the Dexter Mosley Act here in Georgia started around, I want to say 2015, 2016. That basically says if your child is from sixth grade to 12th grade, they are allowed to participate in extracurricular activities and or sports at the school that they are zoned for in your county. And what some schools require, not all, is that you participate in at least one class in person, although I have seen more and more counties embracing online and dual enrollment. So very recently I saw the website for my county says if your child is in dual enrollment, which is usually at a university or a college, that still counts as enrollment. And so you don't have to go to the high school in person, which I thought fabulous that they're acknowledging
Yes.
that. And if your kid wants to be in the band or the drama club or football, which is super huge here, obviously in the South, they can still do that as a homeschool. That's a lot of people think that that's not possible, or they're like, what about prom? If that is something that is extremely important to you or your kid, it is still very possible to do both and homeschool. And that's something that I'm constantly telling people about at my current job, which is a homeschool store, is like, hey, did you know that this exists? I'm always telling them about the Inspire site as well for Georgia because just so many people who've been homeschooling still don't know about those things.
What's the
So I like to
Inspire
let
site?
people
I
know.
don't know what it is.
Yeah, same. I don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh. And okay,
Tell me
listen up,
everything.
Georgians. So the Department of Education has a site called it's inspire.gadoe.org. That's the link for it. And that's the site that I was referring to earlier when I said it gives you the blueprint from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade for all the classes, for all the subjects. And if you're ever just like, what does my second grader need to know for social studies? You go onto that website and it breaks it down for you in the form of like from start to finish for the year. These are the goals, these are the topics that you need to know. And it also gives you some resources like they call them reproducibles, but they just mean worksheets. And all that stuff is on there. They give you different ideas for experiments and projects and field trips. And some of those things are linked to GPB, which is the Georgia version of PBS. And it's all laid out for you to go and look at and say, okay, I'll follow this guideline and I'll expand upon this because we love this. Or sometimes you get on there and you're looking at the resource and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to teach them about the three branches of government. Let me go back and do that. And oh, by the way, here's a resource that the state has already provided so that we can do that.
Oh, that's
That's
amazing. Well, we're
cool.
gonna link that in the show notes for
For
sure.
for sure.
Thank you for telling us
That's
about
a
that.
good one. Yeah, see, I'm always trying to make sure people know about those 2 things for sure for Georgia homeschoolers. Like, once you know about those 2 things, I feel like you can really spread your wings and fly because there's not much
Yeah.
else that people can criticize you about. I mean, I know people like to say socialization, but wah, wah, nobody cares about that anymore.
No,
Listen, we're trying to find stay-at-home days over here where we ain't gotta socialize with
absolutely.
nobody.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think
Over
as with
socialized.
anything, if you're not in our little world, then you just think it doesn't exist because
Yeah.
you don't know about it. You
Right.
just think, "Oh, we're just all sitting at home waiting for y'all to get out of school." No, we're not.
We are living, and then we're coming home before you get out of school.
Correct.
Exactly. Trying to get in some semblance of a school day with these worksheets or these, with these
Mhm.
online platforms that we're using. Like we're done. We've been socializing. Like, and that's the one thing that like I love about the Georgia state parks is they do host a lot of homeschool days. I'm sure you
Yes.
guys are no aware. And usually they're between like 10 and 2. And I love
Mhm.
those because it's like, yes, we don't have to be in traffic either way, like
Mhm.
getting there or coming back, but we still have had a full fun day.
Yes.
Have you
And
done
I love
any of
the
those?
I have. I've done orienteering, which is like land nav, and I wanted to do the fishing one that they did, but it was canceled due to weather. But I'm trying to get back on the schedule for the fishing one. But I do enjoy going out and doing the hike with the rangers. We did one that was like cooking on an old-fashioned stove up at the Hartman Farms. That was really fun.
and the state park pass is really helpful for that because then, like,
Yes.
parking is covered, and then it's just whatever the cost is for that specific class. We just did a fishing 101 class a couple weeks ago at Red Top
Mhm.
Mountain State Park, and it was great. These classes are awesome. And in our case, we ended up being the only ones there. So we got a one-on-one lesson, which
Oh, I
was
love that. It makes me feel so
awesome.
elite.
Yes,
That's like,
my
we
private
rented out the
lesson.
park for the day.
And that's just something that we get as homeschoolers right in the middle of the day. It's so nice. Tam, you mentioned working. Do you want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that balance of working and homeschooling? Because I think
Sure.
sometimes people feel like you can't do anything else but homeschool. You certainly
Yeah.
could never work.
And again, I think that that thought process comes from folks who haven't done it. But once you've been homeschooling for, I would say, longer than 5 to 7 business days, you realize it's very short. It's like 2 to 3 hours, and you're like, what else am I supposed to do with these kids? So with me, I've kind of been working throughout. I did take a little bit of time off when my son was born to not do anything, but I've done a lot of work from home things. So, like, I've done the teaching English to Asian students. I've done customer service from home, as I mentioned. I also sell the products that I make, and have done some tutoring from home. But recently, I accidentally got a job outside the home when I
I love that I accidentally
Kayla's
got
like,
a
"What?"
job.
I did. And I didn't mean to. I went to a homeschool store in Buford, and I was just looking around, and the owner, Todd, mentioned that they were looking for someone to work here. And I was like, well, I've fallen in love, and I've already sent the United States Postal Service my forwarding address to here because I'm not leaving. And he was like, "Great, that works perfect for me." So I just am there 2 to 3 days a week, talking to homeschoolers, sharing about curriculum, learning about curriculum because, it's a consignment store. So all different types of resources are coming in, and I'm like, "I did not know this existed," which I frequently do talk about on, my TikTok too, because I'm just like, "Who knew? Who knew this was a
Yeah.
thing?"
That's so cool, but also that would be very dangerous for me because I'd be
It's
like, I
not.
need this. I need this. I need this.
The employee discount is pretty rad. It's pretty rad. Plus, I'm consigning my things too, so I'm getting store credit from what I'm, consigning and people are buying. So, no, it's really good actually.
I really want to come. I really,
Y'all need to listen. Like, we're having a mom's night out. Y'all need to come.
Yeah, I feel like, this is like, okay, the the podcast needs this. We need to
Yes,
go so we can
yes,
speak on it in
take it
person.
on the
it's
road.
research. Yes.
It is, and this is our whole thing is we want people to know what is available in the Southeast. I'm just
Yes,
saying.
this is one of the things that's available. Y'all need to come. I think at our core, we want nothing more than to help people who are genuinely curious and passionate. Now, if you are coming with some snarky energy, we can get sassy right back.
Mm-hmm.
But at our core, we are genuinely trying to be helpful.
Yes. When we know that you're committed to homeschooling too, we just want to make this community thrive because it really
Exactly.
benefits all of us, right? Because
100%. 100%.
there's still people out. It's getting better, but there's still people out there who think we're weird, and we are. We're weird.
We are.
But the more that we help each other, then the more that stigma kind of goes away.
I like the stigma. I really don't want it to go away because I don't want everybody thinking that they can come sit by us.
Right?
You can sit with
No,
us.
no, I'll tell you. Can I tell you why I like it though?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
because the world rewards weird. And I know that's a bit of a tongue twister, but I tell my kids that all the time. Like, Jeff Bezos was weird for trying to sell books on the internet.
Hmm.
Elon Musk was weird for trying to create electric vehicles and make it a thing. And it's the ones who choose complacency and compliance and just let me not upset anyone that end up miserable because they never went after anything. They never have gone after a passion because they're too busy trying not to upset and people please everyone else around them, which I think I perfected as a public school student. I was a
Mhm.
perfect model of don't rock the boat, just get these A's and B's, do exactly what is expected of you, and then you wake up at 22 with a college degree that you're like, now what?
Yep.
What do I do now? And it's weird, quote unquote, to have a passion and be so unapologetically passionate about a thing nowadays, but it's what gets you the likes, the views, the accolades, the rewards, the attention, whatever, all the things that end up you getting monetized for. Like my little weird TikTok thing is now one of the main reasons I can just like sit back and not stress about brunch. I can just like chill.
Yeah.
I
because,
love that.
that weird shower idea became something that brought folks together. And it's like now people use that I word with me. And I'm just like, oh, really? Because I just posted my shower thoughts.
That I word.
I'm so glad you shared that because I think that is a different perspective. Because I think there's so much of we're like, no, no, we're fine. Like, don't worry about us over here. We're fine. But like,
Mhm.
we want to be weird. That's like a
Mhm.
really good
I definitely embrace it now.
and and you can think I'm weird, and I don't want you to come sit at my weird table either.
Well, and I think it's a great deterrent too, because if you are the type of person that's raising your kids to think that unless you're exactly like me, I can't hang with you, please stay away from me. And so I like homeschooling as like people repellent for for people who just can't tolerate the fact that I've had a different experience than you. If
Right.
that is triggering you, upsetting you, by all means, stay away from me.
Yes,
Like, you
and
can
Okay.
engage with my content, I guess, but by all means, stay over there.
Okay, but I've been dying to ask you, what is I just wanna know, like, the most unhinged thing that you have experienced on social media, or the most unhinged thing you're willing to talk about on a recording.
Uh, okay, so I've gotta make sure my mom doesn't listen to this.
I love your mom so much. I love her so much.
So, as we were talking about, I have gone live a lot with the Homeschool Help Desk thing, and my mom did not do social media prior to TikTok, but she wanted to support. She wanted to see what it was about. She wanted to support. So I made her a TikTok and I told her how she can get on the lives with me. And one of the things that I experienced in the early days of going live was naysayers, people that would get on and talk about homeschool is bad, homeschool is, all the things that they believe about homeschool while not actually having been a homeschooler. And so just imagine the comments because they all came through in all the different flavors. And immediately after I would get off live, my mom would want to call and do an after action review of what she saw in the comments,
Oh, no.
and she would have choice words, southern words, because she's the southern belle at her heart. She's not going to use profanity, but southern phrases when you hear them.
Mhm.
And she just would have a lot of thoughts about the people who were criticizing homeschooling and me for choosing homeschool. So those early lives, I remember my mom being extremely unhinged and I'm having to like talk her down because she would take screenshots and be like,
I
and then
love
they
it.
said, and so yeah, just calming my mom down, who by the way was not a huge homeschool advocate. Let's be clear, she didn't start off loving it either, but has become the biggest evangelist now. And so that was always funny. That stands out to me. Another thing that I'm grateful I don't experience a lot anymore was just a bit of the stereotyping that Black people don't homeschool, or that if you are homeschooling, then there must be something wrong with your kid, because obviously only people who have children with problems homeschool. So some of those comments would be just not difficult, but just like it just pointed out the level of indoctrination and ignorance
Mhm.
that is around homeschooling. And so that would always be a little bit like, do I want to go there? Do I really want to?
Yeah.
Do I care to correct this person? But, those types of comments too were
How did you
always
determine
interesting.
whether or not to engage?
If it was curiosity, like you get the tone of like, I would like to do this, but, or I'm curious how you handle this, or what curriculum do you use for that, or what activities, like you can tell kind of the tone. When it came off as criticizing, like straight criticism, not trying to learn anything about it, like I have an opinion about homeschooling and I just need you to know it. Those are the ones that I used to engage with at the beginning, but then I realized there was no net positive for me in doing so. So I really just delete those, block those, because they would become thesis in the comments with
Mhm.
other people. Not even me
Mhm.
engaging, but other people would engage. And I still get all the notifications about it, which was annoying. So I just said, yeah, we're gonna just wipe those off the board. This is not a democracy. My page is not a democracy.
I think you
And
said that one
so
time in one of your posts. You were like, "Guys, this is my social media account. I'm gonna do with it what I wanna do."
100%. 100%. Now, some of the comments I would turn into Homeschool Help Desk clips that, the skits that would come from that. One in particular is still my favorite, but it didn't get a lot of love. I don't know why. Y'all are crazy. Was when people would say, and they still do love to say, you're not qualified to teach your kids. And I turned that into, well, the school board thinks I'm qualified to teach yours, because I actually did go through the process of becoming a substitute teacher for my county. And I am qualified for short and long-term assignments after 4 hours of a PowerPoint presentation. So
Mhm.
the county thinks I'm qualified to teach your kids. And it's immediately like, zzz, like once you
Yes.
say something like that. So that was one of my favorite videos. And I don't get that comment anymore, oddly enough.
You shut that down real quick.
Yes. I really like your perspective there too of like if someone has genuine curiosity, like let's come alongside them. But if it's
Mhm.
just to be hateful or say whatever they want, that's not space is not for you.
Yeah, it's like if you know it all, if you coming in with know it all energy, I'm not gonna correct you. Like, yeah, okay.
Right.
I am totally comfortable with you being wrong.
Yeah.
I don't feel any compulsion to correct your
Yes.
ignorance. However, if you're coming at it with like, no, I don't know about this, or I'd like to know about this, I'm happy to help direct you. Cause that's another thing I like to do in all my videos is I'm like, you don't have to take my word for it. Like, here's me citing my sources of telling
Mm.
you where I got this information. So I do that quite often as well. But with the know-it-alls, I'm like, oh yeah, you know it all over there.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
like
for
that. I'm
stopping by
totally
and engaging with
comfortable.
my post.
Literally though, I'll sometimes say like, thank you for your engagement.
And I'm comfortable with you being wrong. That's
I'm
fine.
100% comfortable with you being wrong. I do not feel compelled to correct you.
A really healthy way to approach to this like social media world that can be so like there's no rules, like it's so unhinged. That's a really healthy way to both engage and be kind, but like protect your sanity as well. That's
Yeah.
great.
Because
Great
I mean, they're
advice.
not trying to learn, they're trying to get a zinger, a little gotcha. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, heard, you can go touch grass now. Like,
Yeah. You're not
I'm
gonna
good.
gotcha me. Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that someone can comment under a 60-second post that's going to make me go enroll my kids in public school.
Right.
So
After 11 years.
I'm good. Far too deep into Alice's Wonderland for me to care what someone who 99% of the time doesn't even have children. They're doing the hypothetical, I would never put my kids in school. It's like those are the same people who say they would never give their kid a chicken nugget. Like,
Right.
okay, we'll see.
Yeah, until you've been there.
Not
Come
a
back
life
and
I
talk to me
want.
about it. Yeah.
Like once you have a child, then tell me what you would do with your child. And here's the thing, I've never been on my page, homeschool is the only way. I've always said it is a way, and this is how I'm doing it, or these are the resources I'm using. I have friends of mine who have a child in public school and homeschool. Like they have multiple children where they're doing multiple different avenues to meet those kids' needs. And that is how it should be. Because
Yeah.
as we all know, there is no one size fits all approach to education. There's no one size fits all clothing, even. Like, even if you believe that all children should do one particular thing in order to thrive and survive, there's still lots of different ways to come to that conclusion or lots of different ways to achieve that. If you think all children should learn cursive, for example, you can do that in many different ways. You can do it from workbooks, you can do it from those grooved handbooks, which are different than just the traditional pages. You can have them do it on whiteboards. You can, have them illustrated through art or what have you, or teach it calligraphy style. Like there's still lots of different ways to achieve the same goal. I happen to be a person who thinks not all children have to be in one particular building to learn their ABCs. Can we still meet up at the park afterwards though? Like
Correct.
Yes.
that's where I'm at on that.
I love that. Responsive to each kid and what they
Yeah.
need to
Mhm.
learn. Yeah. And each family, I always say if it's not working for the parents, then it's not working for the kids either, right? Like even if you think homeschooling
100%.
is best for your kids, but it's not working for you, then that's not like we're moms first and we've
Yeah.
got to be able to still be moms.
100%. Yeah, I often tell people, like, you can want to homeschool so bad, but then still realize it's not the best fit for your family. Like, if you're going to be miserable doing it, don't do it. Just, be the room mom, be the active parent, be your kid's advocate, be in their corner, support your teachers, like, help make sure they got what they need from the list, the school supplies list. You don't, you don't have to do it full time, is what I've said. Because I think all good parents homeschool at their core. Like we all teach our kids things um, i- within our own levels of comfort and expertise and what we do, but we don't have to all do it full time.
Yeah.
The three of us on here on this podcast, we're doing it full time. But there's parents like mine, my parents, I would say they homeschooled part-time. Like, I learned financial lessons from my parents that I did not learn in school. I learned grammar lesson. My dad loved to write. I learned that from him, not necessarily from my English teachers. So, all good parents who have a desire to see their kids succeed homeschool in some ways. Just just varying degrees of how often or, full time, part time, on the weekends, in the summers, that
Yeah.
might differ. But at the core, we're all teaching our kids, we're all trying to give them the best chance they can to not be the bums on the couch in their 30s at our house.
Right.
Be the most beautiful perspective I've ever heard a
Yeah.
homeschool parent share about that, like, that tension between homeschoolers and folks who whatever other path they've taken. That might be the most beautiful way I've ever heard anyone describe that. Thank you for that, Tam. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate you saying that. Like, I love analogies. And I know another one that I shared was about how like schools are like restaurants. And listen, if you live in an area where it's a five-star restaurant and you've got Michelin star chefs, obviously send your kids there, you know? But if you live in an area where maybe the restaurants are getting like a D rating, let's see if we can, find some groceries and some cookbooks and try to make these healthy meals at home.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, for a lot of us, we are living in areas where we hear the teachers are quitting, we hear they are not happy, we hear the environment is chaotic. And, for various reasons, we say, let's just give it a try at home. Let's see
Yeah.
if we can instill a love of learning for our kids in a different environment than the current climate of our area. But
That was
that's not to
great.
say all schools are bad, all schools are, because just like that's just as silly as saying all restaurants are bad. They're not. Some restaurants are amazing. And I often say you could also do a mix. Like I referenced the Inspire site from the Georgia Department of Education. I think it's a great site. I use it quite often to, calibrate myself with making sure we're meeting the standards. But at the same time, it's like I'm looking at a recipe book. I'm going to take some of that and then I'm going to add my own family's favorite seasonings and I'm going to, do the things that I know that we like, inspired by the public
Yeah.
school or the Department of Education, and we're going to do it on a different schedule. Like some people like to have breakfast for dinner. Other people think that's crazy. We're allowed to do those things here as
I love
homeschoolers.
breakfast for dinner. Kayla does it.
Eh,
Do you really?
I
Your
really hate it.
analogy in real time, because we do breakfast for dinner once a week. It's a family tradition, and Kayla hates breakfast for
Really?
dinner. Yes. So, like, your
I'm
analogy
also
just in
not.
real time hit.
I'm not breakfast for dinner either. However, I will have bacon on a burger for dinner. So I mean, some components you can have for dinner. And that's what I'm saying, like we're all different in that respect. But like I said, I think once I love to use analogies, especially when I'm live, because it helps people like understand like I'm not saying homeschool's the beacon and everything else is not. I'm saying if you when you can bridge people's understanding, because sometimes we're just using different words and different meanings and it just makes for a complicated conversation, but analogies do help bridge the gap. And like I said, if you live in a Michelin star area, please take your kid to the restaurant. What are you doing?
Right.
Like, if Gordon Ramsay was in my area offering to cook every meal for my kids for free, duh. Like, if my taxes were paying for Gordon Ramsay to cook, I'm
Right.
not lifting a spoon, you know? You won't see me lifting a spatula. But I don't have that in my area. I have to be honest about what's available to me and listening to a couple of my friends who were working in the school system. I have seen it for myself. Like I said, I went through the process to become a sub and I was like, no, we're not missing nothing over here. We're
Mm-mm.
going to be home cooking for sure.
That restaurant's not for us. Your analogies are just so good at helping to simplify these things that feel complex until I hear you give that analogy, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's exactly what's going on." They're
Yeah.
so they're so helpful. I really, really like them.
Thank you.
So, one of the ways we like to kind of wrap things up is by asking you to share a homeschool win. We want to make sure that we celebrate wins, individually as a community. That's, a big deal for us. So, would you share a homeschool win, whether it's a recent one or just like a really monumental one that sticks out in your head?
I think I kind of did share it a little bit ago, but my kids invest now because like they do it on their own. And hearing their thought process when they come to me and they're like, I want to invest in such and such company because, and they give me their reasons. Like that for me is a huge win for where we are right now. I love the way they are approaching their finances and how they're thinking about money in the future because at the end of the day, like I know that they're going to be all right. Whatever path they choose to making money, they're going to be able to, make their money make money, turning them into little financial farmers. I love that. So that's probably one of my biggest wins is just that, because that's always been a huge thing to me. Because your kids can grow up and make a lot of money, but if they're also in a lot of debt, then they're just kind of working to live, and
Yeah.
instead of just living. But yeah, that's been definitely one of my biggest wins. It's like the biggest thing I'm passionate about teaching my kids is financial literacy.
Okay, well, if
That's
you
really
create
cool.
that masterclass and put it behind a paywall, I will pay for it because I need that in my life as well. So I'm
Yeah,
just
I feel like
I've
I
saying.
been
need you to
thinking
teach
about
me.
sharing that.
Do you have
I honestly
a
have.
mom's version?
Right?
I've honestly been thinking about it, but I'm always terrified to talk about money with people, because I'm always terrified to talk about money with people because you just never know how people are going to take it. I don't ever want it to come off as criticizing, like, you should do this and you should do that. So I just usually never even bring it up because I'm Southern and that's how we were raised. We don't talk about such things in polite company. But I would love to share, because I think so many people think homeschooling and some of their dreams are out of reach, when really you just got to know your number. Like, that's one of the things that led me into homeschooling, was knowing the hours that I had in my day, knowing the dollar amount that I needed for our family to function. A lot of people don't know that number, like down to the number, the penny. They'll just kind of estimate, like, oh, we need about such and such $1,000 each month to make our family work. And it's like, no, do the numbers, like, do the math. What did it take to survive? And what's the number to thrive?
Mm.
And then you can say to yourself of like, okay, well, if I can sell a spreadsheet, if I can sell 10 of these spreadsheets a month, that pays for all of our subscription services, or
That.
that pays for, brunch. And then we don't have to give up those things as a homeschool. There's all different types of ways to make $100.
Yeah.
So
So
we'll be watching for that resource.
Mm-hmm.
But tell the people where they can find you and your resources that are ready today.
So the best place to find me is TikTok. That's where I'm most active, which is just at Cousin Tam. And then the link in my profile is where you can find all the resources that I'm currently selling, like some of the copy work I've created, the spreadsheets, the record keeping. I also wrote a little book that answers some questions, Q&A style, about homeschooling, which is available on Amazon for free if you've got Kindle Unlimited, or I think it's $3.99 if you don't. So yeah, that's basically where you can find me. And the book is just called Homeschool Help Desk
I love
Guide.
it.
And I do plan to bring back my podcast at some point, which is Homeschool Help Desk Live, but there's already a bunch of episodes on there now. So if anyone wants to listen to that, you can, from some of the live recordings that I've done of the TikTok lives.
Well, thank
Wonderful.
you so much. This has been like such a fun conversation, and I
Yes.
have learned things. So, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to sit and chat with us. I greatly appreciate it. And I truly hope that we can do this again later on as you develop that financial literacy class. We
The
can,
kid,
we can do,
the homeschool version and then the mom's version too.
yes,
Oh my gosh. And now I've said it, I feel like I need to, like, actually just go ahead and get on it.
put
I
it
need to
out
stop
there.
being nervous about it.
Yeah. But seriously,
Well,
thank you
thank y'all
so
for
much for
having
being
me.
Mm.
here.
Thank
No,
you.
I was happy to do it. Thank you for asking me. This was awesome.
And Kat, where can they find you on socials?
Recreating Camp and recreatingcamp.com. And how about you, Kayla?
I'm at Scratch Made Simple. And as always, you can find both of us at Homeschooling Down South. We'll see y'all next week. If you enjoyed this episode, we would be so thrilled if you would go to Spotify and leave us a 5-star rating. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast, we would love a 5-star rating and review. It really helps us get the word out and make sure that all of our homeschool families know what's going on here in the Southeast. Thanks, y'all.